See? Hello, everybody. Hopefully there's somebody there. Once again, we are here with the wonderful Malory, this time actually with Malory, to talk about the books because tech's working a little bit better this week. So, hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How's yourself?
Well, as I said, I haven't stabbed anyone in the face yet, so that's the level I want to go for. You're right, Ryan. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, Malory has exploded onto the scene of late, and you have brought some absolute fucking blinders out. I mean, just quickly disclaimer here: if you don't like swearing, fuck off. Sorry. Welder by trade originally, so I do swear, and I do swear a lot. It's not intentional, it's just that I use it as people use periods or anything else in a sentence. So if you're watching and that's a problem, I do not apologize. So moving on straight away from there. So Malory, you brought out, obviously, Psycho Marine came out. You've done amazing with that one. But now that you came out with Morgan and Merlin's Excellent Adventures, I mean, dude, that just feels like Bill and Ted all the way. And I know that was where you got it from. So tell us about the story, tell us about the design and about the madness behind it.
Yeah, I think a lot of fantasy fiction can be really, really earnest and really, really straight down the line. And I think part of the reason I think we enjoy reading is for something that's just really a laugh and really takes you out of yourself. And I think having read lots of lit RPG and progression fiction, you really think, well, this is something that would really go well with that sort of light touch silliness, really. And I think the nod to Bill and Ted's probably right, isn't it? Is that it is that looking for that sort of madcap screwball silliness, really, that I think we all look for when we read something, and it was just a lot of fun to write that.
Definitely, but it has that feeling. It's not as screwball. It's more of it's quite light-hearted in some ways. I mean, it's dark in others, obviously, but it's got that sense of a bit of hope with it, and still a little bit of Monty Python as well, with the underlying one of my favorite chapter titles has to be, the chapter in which an ancient wizard fails to find my arse interesting.
Yes.
And it's just sort of like that sets the tone really for me. When I was first reading it as a submission, I was like, you fucking legend.
But no, I think that's the point, though, isn't it? You want to have those moments that just make you giggle. And I think it is having something that is serious and has stakes. And I think that's what's really important with fiction, is there needs to be really serious on the line stakes all the way through. But also that's not what the whole thing can be about all the way through it. And I think you have to have times where actually somebody, I mean, the whole idea of the protagonist is that she's really had a bad time, and she really is quite burnt out with stuff, but actually being able to take that and still go on an adventure and still save the world, I think I found a really interesting thing to write with, really.
I loved it because she's real. Okay, so I've read obviously a lot of things over the years, and some of the characters you feel like they are. Oh no, we're fucking not. Don't you worry, Ryan. We don't always have to be serious, but you feel like sometimes the character is a vehicle for the story. Yeah. They are there just to get from point A to point B. The plot requires that this character does this, so I'm going to make sure this character opens the door and finds, the steps through into Narnia. There is nothing else to this character except following these stages, and it's not at all. She feels so real in the way that she reacts to things and the way that she thinks. I think you did incredible work with it, mate.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the hope, isn't it? Is you don't really just want to have a character that just exists in order to do the next thing. You want someone that's actually the reader can feel like, yeah, I'd have probably have reacted like that as well, or yeah, I can see how that would work. And the whole idea of the story really comes from that Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court idea of being just a massive fish out of water, but in water that the audience is really, really familiar with. So you haven't got completely ridiculously free realms to go with everything, because people are going to be thinking, well, where's Lancelot? Why is Guinevere not here? What's Arthur doing? And I think that was what I hope people enjoy when they read it, is that they do get to meet all the people they'd be expecting to meet as the story goes along, but perhaps not really in the way that that they would
They
expect.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely got me the first time reading through, and it's more of the twist of the way that this is always the problem, because obviously we've read the books. For those that haven't read the books, we want you to read it. We don't want to throw it out. We don't want to give you spoilers here, because that defeats the object. But it really does make it hard to talk about the book when you can't talk about specifics, because you want to discuss the way that the character reacts to finding. I think it's not going to spoil too much. It's very early in the book when the main character comes from our times and is set, obviously, I mean, this is just literally in the book description, and is back in Arthurian times, waking up and suddenly finding that Merlin is there in her head trying to give her advice. And Merlin, being this curmudgeonly old fart, he's like, no, you must do this. You must do this. This is how we do things. And she's like, get fucked. Have you seen this fucking shithole that I'm in here? Look at the place. It's terrible. What am I going to do? You know, she's trying to put her life together. She's dealing with it incredibly well. But there's very much the British sense of humor, Jay, where it's like, oh, well, you know, let's get on with it. Let's deal with this as best we can. And they sort of nod and smile while inside falling apart and going, what the fuck do I do? And you captured that brilliantly. I'm sorry, I'm raving, but I'm a massive fan. I really enjoyed the books.
But I think that's where first person narration works, doesn't it? Is that actually you can have the character putting the mask on for everything to be okay for everybody from the outside, but as a reader, you actually go, well, we can actually see that really they're not particularly enjoying, and they're not particularly happy, and they're not really feeling that this is the day to save the world, really. And I think that's where I think it really is a lot of fun to write in first person. And I know a lot of people like the objectivity of being able to write in third, but I think as a reader, I've always found the characters I've most enjoyed reading are the ones whose heads I've got inside, rather than having them described to me.
So talking about books, what are your favorite books? What are some sort of examples of what led you on the journey?
I mean, Pratchett's by absolute. But I mean, I've read Pratchett since I was as a little kid, really. Hey,
gorgeous.
I don't understand what that means. But yes, so I think that's, and I think that sort of enjoyment really of just of a writer that just seems to be having a lot of fun writing. And I think anything like that, where you feel that the person who's writing a book for you has had a hoot doing it, I think that's what you're looking for, isn't it? In anything, and it doesn't matter what you're reading, as long as you feel someone's really given you a story that they've thrown themselves into, really. But Pratchett definitely. I think anything, Gaiman as well, but Pratchett predominantly, I think, is the guy that saw me through most of my life, really.
Same, massively same. So, okay, top 3 Pratchett books.
Anything with Vimes has got to be at the top. I think Gods is great. Men at Arms, probably. Maybe Fifth Elephant, maybe of there, but definitely Men at Arms. I think that's the one that I really. I think I read that at the right time, and I think it all just fits. Fits. How about yourself?
It's going to have to be Guards, just for that whole. I'll always love thinking. Love you too, Jay. It's always a case of, I think of Carrot when they're describing him walking to Ankh-Morpork, and they're saying, you know, when you're 6 foot tall and nearly the same across the shoulders, people tend to jump out at you from behind rocks and go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else." It's just that mental image of this massive, absolute unit of a guy walking along, sword on his hip, like ha ha ha, and people jumping out and going, "Oh shit, sorry." Yeah. And then Vimes obviously saying, "Well, you know, he's a dwarf. The bugger must have lied because he's 6 foot plus." And just little jokes like that I loved. So Guards
as well. It's always the footnotes, I think, that get you with Pratchett, where you're thinking, actually, the best jokes are the ones that aren't really as part of the text itself.
Yeah, like sort of ran away and then died in an unlikely accident involving an anteater and things like that. The little So Guards definitely. Probably after that, it would have to be something like, what was not Weird Sisters, the one where Masquerade or something. No, not
Masquerade.
Masquerade.
It's the Phantom of the Opera one, Masquerade.
Yeah, that is. I'm thinking of the one where they go off on the riverboat and they're going. The three of them go to like Genua or something, and it's
Witches
it's
Abroad.
basically Witches Abroad. Yes,
Yeah.
Just because Granny Weatherwax comes through in that so well. And beyond that, I don't know. There's so many of them so good. I mean, obviously not Pyramids because that was fucking terrible. I don't know what happened with that one, but there was so absolutely. Oh yeah, Rich. There was so many just such good stories that I couldn't really pick one out of the others that wasn't going to be just like, oh yeah, I love it for this bit, for that bit. Like the city that sank every so often, and Nobby and Colin get sent out to sort out. Jingo, yes,
that one's brilliant. Yes.
But
I think I think the sense of humour that runs through those, where it isn't that joke a minute, every line's a winner. I think that style is one that I think always really does appeal, where you think you can be made to laugh without the writer needing to nudge you on the shoulder and point and go, "This bit's funny. This bit is." It's
yeah,
and that's what you're looking for, isn't it? Is a gag that isn't really a gag,
and you get it like the second time round.
Yeah.
I've got to say, one of my absolute favourite understated ones where people miss it completely and don't know it has to be Lars in his Theft of Decks has quotes from these different the different cards, and one of them is from the knight Georgius. Georgius Michaelus. And it's like, I said I would, did I not? And it's basically it's a George Michael song. Put in, and it's just brilliant the way it's been studied into it, and nobody gets it, and it's like, wait a minute, and just daft humor like that I absolutely love.
Though I think as a reader, when you spot those and you go, I don't think everybody would have got that. I think that's what's I mean, Theft of Decks is awesome.
Now that take a bow, boss.
Hi.
How you doing?
With Jez's weird camera that just follows you everywhere. It's the oddest thing. Yeah, there you go. Starbucks. I'm going back to my cider. See
you. Don't tempt us, she will draw on my head as well. That was a rather nice surprise. Thank you, my love. I wasn't expecting a Starbucks, so I'm certainly not going to complain about that. Just one last one with the Terry Pratchett stuff. Death.
Yeah.
The way that death is just like brilliant. I'll always love that one. Okay, what are fantasy novels that aren't sort of comedy side? Or other books that have really done for you?
I mean, I think at the moment, the Amazon are killing my love for Wheel of Time, which I remembered absolutely loving when I was young enough to watch it. And then watching the show is making me go, I used to really like this. And what on earth was wrong with me? But I think those sort of epic ones that go on, and you can keep stocking up your shelves with the books. I think I'm a collector by heart, so I think anything that's into its volume 10, I start to think, this is probably a good bet. That's really what got me started with even reading Lit RPG, was just seeing really long series, and you're thinking, when you've got your Kindle Unlimited, my wife bought me for Christmas, as well, stop buying books because we're going broke. Please just have this and read anything on there. And seeing that you could see book series that just were that long and were 500 pages long, and going, I've never even heard of any of these. And I think that's what's I think that's that moment when you go, God, this is a whole different world here that I didn't even know existed.
Exactly. And then it's also a case of you start going through it, and because traditionally in Lit RPG as well, we're very fast to release. Yeah. So you're going through and you're like, oh, the next one's out already. The next one's out already. And it's fucking hell. It's only been out 5 years and there's 12 books in the series already, as opposed to one every 2 years or longer, which was Wheel of Time, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. And needing someone else to come in and finish it off for you. But I think because I loved the Rothfuss. And that was the first experience I had of the book never arriving. And you're thinking, I'm never starting a series again that isn't complete, because you really do feel, don't you, that I want to know how all this winds up, and it is nice to come across a genre where you feel that I'm gonna know what happens next in the next 6 months rather than, as you say, the next 12 years.
And for me, Wheel of Time was always a case of it. The books are fucking big size for those that haven't read them, and they start very, very slow each time, and they slowly build and build and build. But by the time you get to the last 100 pages, the entire 100 pages, you're like constantly fucking hell trying to read through as quick as you can.
Yeah.
And I love them. I'm going to Jordan Con in about a month.
Yeah,
less than a month. In fact, I'll be at Jordan Con, and one of my plans is last year when I was there, they do, it's a charity event, and they have for auction book plates signed by Robert Jordan.
Really?
Bloody camera. So exactly, but you can bid for them, and I think they went for about $500 for 3 last year. And obviously the problem is that you want them, and you really want to get them for the full set. So
it becomes a commitment.
It becomes a very big commitment. But then it also comes down to, are you going to put those in the normal books that you read? Or are you going to buy like some ridiculously special edition you're going to be searching for, and then buy that? And then it's like, I'm going to put the book plate in there. I'm going to be just lie that in very, very carefully, make sure it fits perfectly.
That's where I'm at with the. I presume you've read Malazan. Seeing those beautiful book collections that occasionally come up, and every time you see them, I think, gosh, that would be a good way of investing every penny I own, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, who needs to invest in whiskey? I'll just just buy one of those.
A book I'll never open just because it's pretty.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about Peter F. Hamilton?
I'm not sure I've come across.
Well, you should wipe it off if you do. No, Peter F. Hamilton, the Naked God. I can't remember the series.
Sorry, yes. My brain's
nice. You bring that along, I'll have a look at it, mate. I love them. So I loved those. The Belgariad. I loved those growing up. And the Malory and the Elenium and the Tamulai, I didn't get into until a bit further on because it was a different style of writing, a much older style of writing.
Yeah.
I've got my shelves there, and then I've got shelves around here. So from my office style, this side is all our kind of things. I can see Theft Decks there. You can see Scarlet Citadel. You can see Condition Evolution of Kevs. And then that side of the office is all like my old stuff, where it's like the books that I've read so many times that they're falling apart. And I still love them. Like Clive Cussler, for example. I loved Clive Cussler's original stuff. When he started writing with everybody, they went down massively in quality for me, but I loved the originals. David Gemmell. Did you ever read Brian Lumley? Necroscope?
No.
Starts off in Hartlepool and spends a lot of time in the UK.
Very little point in reading that, I would have thought.
Yeah. Starts off in the UK, some of it's in Russia, backwards and forwards, horror, and it's very much around vampires and vampirism.
Okay.
And really good stuff, but Necroscope is the character can speak to the dead.
Okay.
And he's just a young lad growing up in Hartlepool, which, if anybody has ever heard of the place, I'll be surprised, but if you haven't, it's an absolute shithole. And I can say that because I was born there. And the best thing about Hartlepool is it's a good place to be from, not to be. It's to get out. And the primary story that comes with Hartlepool, because everywhere you ever speak of has a story that identifies the place, is that anybody that comes from Hartlepool is known as a monkey hanger.
I was going to say it was the German spy monkey, wasn't it, from Hartlepool?
French, yeah. So
French spy.
Yeah.
Sorry, that stops it being so ridiculous. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the way to look at this is, I'll just draw your attention to this wonderful T-shirt. For anybody that can't get that there. So the story of Hartlepool is that there were a war with the French. It's the 1700s. There's been a lot of wars with France between England and France. We'll just accept that it was 1700s because there will have been one at that point. And there's a terrible shipwreck one night, and the only thing that washes up, there's some damaged stuff from the ship. There's some very obviously dead foreign sailors, And then there's this one character who speaks an utterly ridiculous language. Nobody can speak him, can understand a word he says. He's very aggressive, he's very hairy, and he's just screaming at them and attacking. So obviously they looked at him and went, he's short, bandy-legged, hairy, doesn't speak a word of English, he's a French spy. And they hung him. And then a couple of days later, somebody from outside of the area that had a bit more of intelligence came into the area to look at the evidence of this terrible event and spotted a chimpanzee that was hanging. And they'd hung the ship's monkey, thinking it was a French spy. And that is Hartlepool to a T. You know, when they say that it was in the news recently that there was a massive sort of shipment of cocaine and guns were found behind the library in Hartlepool, and it was terrible news because nobody had a clue there was a fucking library in Hartlepool. That's the level. Sorry, I couldn't help that one. That's actually where I was.
Still a lot of books in Hartlepool, I presume, at this.
If I did, I wouldn't now, I think, from the general abuse I give the place. But it is actually where I'm from. So you have to give your hometown abuse. Like, I have a constant thing with Kev Sinclair in that he lives in Sunderland. I lived in Newcastle for a lot of years. I now live not far from it. And I refer to Sunderland constantly as Scumberland because it's full of scum, just to annoy him. Like we both refer to Lars as a Swedish author because the Swedes and the Danes hate each other with a passion, and he claims to be Danish, which we know isn't a real country. So we call him Swedish.
With affection, of course.
Oh, yes, there's definitely affection somewhere. But we do have to have a little bit of entertainment between ourselves. And between friends, you always do. So we've talked about books. What about games? Do you game much?
I've got a young son who's gradually becoming very, very good at particularly FIFA. And my life seems to have become about just being humiliated by an 8-year-old on FIFA now. And what used to be, you know, you used to feel you sort of let somebody win occasionally. It's now that quite horrible position of just going, right, bedtime now. We'll call it a day at half time because I was going to come back into it. And, yes, it is a little humiliating, really. But yeah, so he seems to have taken over our PS5 now with just being very, very good at his FIFA game, which is now on. I can hear it next door as we're going at the moment.
Oh God, dude! What do you play yourself besides FIFA? Is there anything that you do play, or?
I think I'm very much still stuck in the 90s. So I think the greatest moment that was ever in my life was playing GoldenEye, really, on the Nintendo 65, and that being literally the high point of any gaming experience I think I've ever had. And I think if anyone was ever to try to tell me that wasn't the finest game that was ever produced by any gaming company, I'd say they were a liar. So I think that was where I sort of hit and stopped. So any game from around then, I challenge anybody that I could defeat you on. But anything almost a month after that being released, I'm probably no longer able to compete on any level.
Fair enough. I mean, for me, I love things like Final Fantasy VIII. Yeah, Nintendo 64 was always a good one. I love Final Fantasy VIII. I absolutely hated Final Fantasy 7 and 9 and so on because it was like the characters were all about 12.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy VIII, he was like early 20s. So I could associate with that character while controlling an 8-year-old who's going around kicking the shit out of everybody.
It starts to get weird, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. What about manga or movies? What kind of movies?
Again, I think I'm ridiculously old-fashioned though. My all-time favourite movies are those sort of the Cary Grants, the Humphrey Bogarts, the Katharine Hepburn ones. Really, I am very much old style. I was very much born in very much the wrong decade in every possible sense. But I think what I love about that is the speed of the dialogue, and I think when you watch them, you look at the clock and like an hour's gone and and you feel like you've only been in the film a few minutes because it's just cracked along at such a pace. So I think anything from that sort of age really is something I is You've crossed the line there, I think.
I have, and it was worth it. See, I knew I liked you, Ryan. I knew I liked you. For me, it did, and Toast, no. When I was at the London Book Fair a couple of weeks ago, speaking to people that were hired for like Netflix and other similar companies, and that they're writing shows for Netflix, and they're being told to dumb it down.
Yeah, so it can just go on in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, for those who don't know, they're being told to actively make sure that you can follow the entire series and the entire story while reading on your phone or doing something on your phone, because they're generally expecting you to be distracted. And I'm sorry, if you've got to write a series that you've got to be able to pick up at any time that you can't miss and it matter, what's the point? I mean, it just feels wrong.
Well, it is the opposite, isn't it, really, of having an engaged audience, isn't it? If your audience can have a US wallpaper that's moving around in the background, I think that's what's really quite cool about. I write a bit on Royal Road, and that is the most intense audience who know your book better than you do yourself. I think I've just brought one to a conclusion, and I think on the last but one chapter, I had a very thoughtful comment by somebody, which basically made me think, yeah, I've got to change my end now, because he'd tracked everything that had happened so well that what I wanted to happen couldn't quite happen in the way I wanted without disappointing him. And I suddenly didn't want to disappoint him on such a profound level that I needed to just tweak what was there so he wasn't disappointed.
That is incredible. I love it when people come to me every so often and they'll say things like, oh, in book 3, where you had this comment, and then this was said, and then it goes through to book 11, or like book 8, and they said this, and the way that you've put this really subtle line all the way through, and I bet very few people have realised this, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah, well done,
yes,
you.
They have. Like, making notes, going, must make this an actual real thing. Or asking questions, and I'm going, I have no idea who you're talking about. I have never heard of these characters before in my life. And then you do a search and you're like, oh, I did write about them. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, it's fun at times. So how long have you been writing for?
I mean, writing forever, really. I think you always have that bit where you write stuff and it's just for you, isn't it? And it's just for a mate, and then it's just for a few others. I did a lot of writing for plays for quite a long time. That was how me and the wife met. Is we were acting, and we did a lot of shows, and I wrote the plays for them. But that has a very limited shelf life to it, doesn't it? Is you write something, gets put on, it's on for a few weeks, then it gets put away until someone wants to do it again. So I stopped really for years, and it really was getting the Kindle Unlimited subscription and reading some stuff and thinking, well, that's really interesting. I'll start putting some thoughts down on paper. And then someone pointed me towards Royal Road and said, "Had you thought about just uploading some of your stuff onto this?" And I think you go for it, don't you? And I think that's what's been really interesting, is being able to write something and then get that feedback straight away, where you go, "Oh, okay, people actually quite like this, and I'll keep going." And then it becomes almost addictive, because you have to keep writing, and every day you have to keep writing. And yeah, I think that's been for a year really now. I've just it's been a very addictive thing, really.
So how many words a day do you write? Do you have like an average that you normally write? Do you write for a couple of hours?
I try to do about 10,000 a day. I get up quite early with the lad, and then I don't tend to write so well around this sort of time at night. But I think any day I haven't done 8 is a day where something's been distracting, really. But a good day would be 10. And I think that's quite. I've got into quite a nice rhythm of doing that. I'm right quite clean as well, I think, which helps. I think I've got a reasonably good background in being able to put a sentence together that doesn't need too much editing around it. But yeah, so I think that's been a really good thing, just to be able to sit and write, really.
So what do you know what your biggest day was? What kind of target you hit your best day?
I think moving Dark Age towards the end of the third one, I think I was easily hitting 12, 13 in that last month of trying to do it, just because I think that was a one that was I was really enjoying doing it. So yeah, I think that would be my best possible day, would be around that 12, 13. But yeah, 8 would be a very normal day, I think.
You fucking beast. I love it. I love it because everybody always... People always tell me that I'm ridiculous, that I aim for 10,000 a day. And I'm always like, no, it's not. It's perfectly reasonable. It's just... Because I do it 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Yeah. And you just sit your ass down in the seat and you're right.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's sometimes when you don't get a great deal done, and there's other times where you're absolutely herring away, but it's sitting your ass down for that period and turning off distractions and going for it. I find it really relaxing and almost cathartic.
But I think that's the point, isn't it? If you want to do it and you want it to be a job and you want it to be, then you treat it like that, don't you? As you say, 9 to 5, you sit down and you put your phone down and you put the distractions off and you say headphones and shut your door and you can crack on, can't you?
I love it because so many people tell me it's like, oh, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, fucking, yes. I also love it, and I will go on record for this, guys. Your edits, when you send them back to you, I send them over to you, and I get on with someone else, and they come back and they're done, and I'm like, yes. Just because you're straight on it. I'm sorry, guys, but I just love that because that's exactly how I work as well. And I was starting to think I was a freak.
I think that comes from, if you don't, and knowing I can be quite chaotic, but if you don't do it, you're screwed, because if you don't do it straight away, it's not going to get done for weeks because something else is going to appear. So, but no, it's good.
I'm exactly the same because I am an absolute lazy bastard. I'm a freak, you're damn right, and that's just in the sheets, baby. But it's a case of I know myself that I could quite happily just go, I'm just going to sit, we'll Civ 7's out, I'm going to have an hour on that. And it wouldn't be an hour, it'd be 6 hours. Yeah. Or I really want to read this book. I really want to read the Wheel of Time again. Yeah. So I actually get the real story, not this abomination. Fuckers. But things like that, where it's a case of you want to go and you want to do it and you want to enjoy it. And you could so easily. But instead you go, no, you know what? 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, this is my job now.
Yeah.
And if I was to work in any other role, I couldn't sit. I would be, I worked years ago in Orange for a while, shows my age, in a call center. And yeah, they kind of noticed if I just fucked off and went, you know what, actually, I'm not going to bother doing this job for the next 6 hours. I'm going to relax. I wouldn't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
And there's also that ultimate terror of, I know for a fact that if I went, you know what, I'm going to treat myself to an hour and started to play Civ or something on the game here, on the machine, that would be when Chrissy would come in to ask me a question.
Yes.
And then she would go, so this is what you do with your work time, is it? And I would never, that would be thrown back at me forever, and I cannot risk that. Yeah. Since I'm going snorkeling, yeah. You bastard, Ryan. You bastard. Go enjoy yourself, mate. Thank you. And Kevsky there as well, the filthy animal. Oh, dude. It's the best job I've ever had. By far.
I think I've had several, and I think this last year have really been focusing on writing. I think my wife was saying to me the other night that I'm a much more chilled person than I think I've ever been, really. And I think it is doing something that is really quite enjoyable, and I think it is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Go on there, Ryan, my dude. So Ryan, I believe, was on his honeymoon. So
that's a decent excuse. It's a decent excuse.
Yeah. It is, definitely. Oh, good. So what have you been reading of late? Is there anything in particular you've read of late, or anything Row Road? Or...
I'm reading Mage Tank at the moment. I don't know if you've read that one.
No.
I saw it popped up on Kindle Unlimited, and it was just a really interesting idea. Because when you think, wow, there's no way you can be a tank and a mage, and he's making it work, and it's a really I'm really quite enjoying the experience of reading it. I think that's trying to find things that are that little bit different and that little bit quirky, isn't it? And different takes on the way that things work. So now that's what I've been reading that at the moment.
For me, it's definitely it's Kev's Mage Mangler.
Yes, I was reading that.
It's just ridiculously violent. It's just so dark and yet so much So for anybody, you'll recognise the sort of the characters from the people you'll know from the UK. it's just so much like the lunatics.
No, it is very cool.
Yeah, no, that's what I've been reading of late for actual pleasure.
Yeah,
because obviously there's a lot of submissions come through and we have to read those first. But I will say as well, I tortured myself because to start writing Underverse 8, I had to reread Underverse 1 to 7, and just rereading them all from scratch, and I'm picking up plot lines that I had no clue about, and so I joke about not knowing these characters. It's like, who are these people?
Your books like, you could kill an animal with your books. They are very, very long.
Yeah, 1.7 million words I had to read. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it, more or less. You don't enjoy reading it. For anybody who doesn't know, you don't really enjoy reading your own work because all you do is constantly pick fault. Don't make me. I'll get in the car, I'll drive over, and I'll beat you to death, Kev. I will murder you. I am definitely a no pantser. You're right there, Jay. I'm just constantly off the wall with Ryan of Canada joins the chat. For anybody who hasn't met Ryan de Brun is huge. He is like 6'6", I think he is, and he's also one of the nicest people you will ever meet. And he walks in, and it's just like, I mean, I'm 6 foot, and you have conversations with him like that, and his wife is about 4 foot. So it's just hilarious seeing the two of them side by side. She's absolutely lovely and a terror. So, oh god. Okay, off on a side reel there. Where were we? What were we talking about? So, what do you do to relax then?
I mean, I think sport is the big thing, really. I think anything with a ball that is actually as it is described. So it's football, not whatever Americans try to pretend it is football, cricket. They're probably the two things that rugby. My lads just started playing rugby, so I think anything like that is probably where I look to relax.
So did you used to play a lot when you were younger?
I used to, yeah. God, I don't anymore. I'm far too old now. But no, I used to play a lot. I think that's the hope, isn't it? When your little one starts playing and you think, oh, when he gets into old enough to play in a men's team, I could maybe ease myself back in and just keep a watchful eye. Got really strong memories of that being something my own dad did when my brother and I used to play. He then rolled back the years and came to join the teams to sort of help us through. So I think that's the thing that you enjoy. But again, it's just like with the FIFA though. You're playing out in the garden and you're suddenly realising you're breathing a bit heavier than you really should be, and you're sort of like, we'll just have a break now for a minute and go in and take your inhaler and have yourself a sit down. But I think it's that mixture, isn't it? I think having that nice quiet time where you can sit and write, and then that bit where you can sort of blow off a lot of steam and be very loud. I think that's a nice mixture.
Yeah. I used to love my martial arts. It's been so long since I've done martial arts, and I keep looking at it and thinking, I could have that again. I could go back to that. And I want to do a new one. I want to do something like Krav Maga and just start. Oh yeah, just properly go in for something mad.
Something really intense.
Oh yeah, where I did Bujinkan for a little while.
Gosh.
And Bujinkan is, for anybody who doesn't recognize the name, it's the parent art of a lot of the Japanese arts. And it was banned around most of the world because it's where other martial arts teach you that it's dishonorable to use a weapon, to hide a weapon, and to do things. Bujinkan teaches you that, well, you're an idiot and you're going to be a dead idiot in a minute because part of the training for it, we would have like knives, which were just like a felt tip on the end of it. But you'd have a knife or something stashed about you, and you'd be in the middle of a fight and a brawl, and you whip it out and you just straight across and like leave a mark on their top, and they're like, "You bastard!"
Nice.
So yeah, it was pretty vicious and violent. And then I started using techniques in very low level brawls, and realized that I was quite aggressive at the time. And I was like, I could start really hurting people here and start serving time for this. I'm going to back off and stop. And then I've never gone back. And the times when I really wish I could go back to it now, and I'm like, just, I go along to that. And then I go, no, I couldn't. I get the shit kicked out of me these days. So I'd got in touch with the little Krav Maga sort of chapter and said, like, hey, do you do kids lessons? Because I was thinking me and Max could go along. Yeah. My eldest is 6. I was like, that's a good time to start your martial arts. Yeah. He'll go along. I'll learn with him. I'm not very limber anymore, but it'll be good for a laugh, and it'll still be. They're like, no, we don't do children's. We do fully lethal arts. We do not do children's lessons. I was like, oh, what about fat bastard lessons? I'm a fat bastard. I'd like to do it. And they're like, no. All right. So we'll see. I still harbour the hope that I'll go back to martial arts one day, but probably not.
No, nah, something I've never done. I've never done those. I don't think.
I was, yeah, very much.
It's a good parenting tip there, to be fair, I think.
I subscribe to the school that if anybody's going to bully your child, they should really, really regret it. And I think that a child that's trained in Krav Maga, if somebody tries to bully them, the bully is going to learn a very, very important lesson. I also, though, subscribe to the school that if anybody else can bully my child, then I haven't done my job right. So I constantly pick on them and wind them up.
Develop that
in a loving way.
Yeah.
It's the best way I find. It probably isn't. I'm probably going to get reported by so many people right now. But fuck it. Oh god. So I have thought about stabbing people with them a few times, but you know. So I know you're not going to be coming to sort of any of the cons this year. Hopefully, you might be able to come to one next year.
That would be the hope, yeah.
Because it's good fun. It really is genuinely good fun. It's lovely to see everybody when we're out there.
I think being able to meet people face to face would be cracking, because I think doing things like this is brilliant, and certainly the monthly meetings is a really nice way. But it's not the same as being in an actual room with other human beings, really, is it?
Yep. To be honest, I mean, the first time I met Kev and Lars was at a conference, and that was the 20 books to 50k in Madrid. And you go out, and there's for authors conferences, there's a lot goes on. That because obviously you've got two kinds of conferences. You've got reader focused and you've got author focused. And author focused is very craft focused. It's on turning your writing into a business. It's on running it as a business, on preventing burnout, on things like that, and your various tricks of the trade. While the reader focused side is more of, there's a lot of readers there, and you're going there to meet them and to relax and to spend a bit of time.
Yeah.
And it's mad, because the author side, I'd been there for about 6 hours maybe, and Chatfield. So we'd gone to one of the conference, one of the presentations, and I'm writing these things down in my notebook, and he goes, oh, just here, take a copy of mine. And he opens it up, and he's been to so many of these different conferences that he had it all written down.
Really?
And it was like everything. He's like, he's going to cover this next. I'm looking at it and going, right. He goes, do you want to just make a copy of my book? And should we just go to the bar? And I was like, yeah, let's go to the bar.
Yeah.
And it's not just because I'm a raving alcoholic. It's because you, in speaking to somebody else who's done all the things that you're going through, you can actually ask those questions and get a response of like, oh, well, I found it didn't because the Canadian versus the British market means this. And it's so much better. And I never actually made a copy of that book. I just got drunk. But yeah, it's good fun. It is. It sounds like it's. I joke about it, and so I tell these stories about us all drinking for most of the day. And everybody goes, "Oh, that's a work conference, is it? You just got drunk." And you go, "Well, yeah, it is and it isn't." Because you spend 12 hours, yeah, exactly. You spend like 12 hours a day there constantly on the go and asking all these questions, making these relationships, meeting these people. And then you go to the reader-based conferences, and you spend 18 hours a day being upbeat and cheerful and, "Hey, everybody." And inside you're like, "I drank far too much last night. I need to just go to bed. Please, nobody speak to me. I'm walking to the exit." And then somebody walks in and goes, "No, I haven't seen you in ages. I drove all this way to see you." And you're like, and it's great fun. It is. But you're also, by the time you fly home, you're like, oh God, I'm a shadow of the man I was. And even then I was a fucking mess. It is good fun. I joke about it a lot, but it's damn hard work, and it is also very, very well worth it. So if you can, it would be great to see you. And if the boss will let you go as well, because I know if she watches this and hears me talk, "Oh, well,
yeah, I'm just going to go get drunk." That's okay, isn't it? Like childcare on you. That's yeah. Might hide this one from her.
Yeah, I would. You do feel sort of a bit ridiculous with it, because I talked to Chrissy about it, my wife, for anybody who doesn't know, and it's a case of we're talking about, like, "Oh, when can we fit in a holiday? We'll take the kids somewhere." And she's like, you say, "Oh, I'd love to go on holiday." And she goes, "You'd love to go on holiday? You're at 4 conferences this year. You've already been to 2 as well. You're flying abroad 6 times this year." And you're like, "Yeah, but you're rum and red. That's
work.
Criminal act." But you're also on display the entire time, so you are exhausted. And by the time you finish, you're just like, "Oh, please let me have a holiday. I just want to stop. I want to lie on a beach and just terrify people." But enough about that side of things. So we're talking obviously about the book. So let's roll this back a little bit. Tell us about the books. Tell us about the series, and tell us where you're planning on going with things.
Yeah, so the series is a trilogy at the moment, and it's following Morgan, who's the protagonist, and she's been she's ended up in front of a truck, and I think part of that's how that happened is part of the wider story. But she's taken back to the Dark Ages, and in those opening few pages, it turns out that she's the last possible potential cultivator in the entire of humanity that can help Merlin basically get the timeline back into order, because Merlin's dead, and that's how the book opens, is with the murder of Merlin. And obviously, without Merlin, all of the things that are supposed to happen with the whole of Camelot and Arthur and the Sword in the Stone, none of those things can happen if Merlin's not there to help. So the idea really is he's planning to sort of puppet somebody through doing his role in the story of Arthur. And he's tried to find somebody remotely competent or remotely useful to do that, and then they've all gradually been murdered as well as he's tried to bring them online. And that's really where the book opens, is with Morgan opening her eyes, and she's been reincarnated onto a battlefield, and suddenly has Merlin in her head telling her she needs to get up because the Saxons are coming and they need to get a move on. And that really is how book 1 sort of rolls out, is her starting to go on a cultivating journey and starting to accept a little bit of what she needs to do and to leave who she was behind a bit. And we end book 1 really at that sort of point where most of the main characters that you'd associate with an Arthurian story are there. And that leads into the second book that's out in May, which is where we get our major antagonist sort of rises, and that in turn leads to the third one, which is the search for the Dark Blade, which is Excalibur. And that really is where that trilogy sort of comes to a halt. Really, is where they find where Excalibur is, and that's led us to about halfway through the stories that I think people will be mostly familiar with the Saxons are coming. Yeah, it's the Saxons are very much the bad guys in the story.
Yeah. So just to make this clear, Lars is one of those. There's a sense of those fuckers used to come across on the water and then rob and murder and pillage and then fuck off home. So yeah,
there's a not at all stereotypical depiction of a Viking within within the second book, which I'm sure nobody with any sort of dissent from that one will find offensive in any way at all.
Yeah.
Very straightforward,
Also,
very respectful depiction of Vikings.
It was aimed solely at you, Lars, and it says Lars is a twat. Just to be clear. So I will go on record here, guys. Obviously, to hold my hand up to this one, we worked in conjunction with Malory to produce these, and I absolutely love the series, which is why we chose to do it, and we want to go ahead. Though I will hold my hand up with this one. Unfortunately, the audio did release at the same time as the ebook and the paperback book sort of 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, there was a problem with the audio, and we're waiting on. We prefer physically introducing ourselves holding weapons instead of raiding. Yeah. So we're waiting on the new version being done because unfortunately there was a few problems behind the scenes and the narrator is unfortunately having to be replaced. We can't go into it because we're not covered on it, so it's something that has happened. And the audio we have been told that the audio will be out very soon. We don't have a set date, but we have been told that the audio for Book 2 is aimed to release in May when Book 2 releases anyway. So it should be out well before that. So the hope is that the next couple of weeks, hopefully Book 1 will be out and then Book 2 and then Book 3 shortly thereafter as well. It's an excellent fucking series. The narrator she covers British English very well. She does Queen's English for it. She's, how do we pronounce it? Jess Nayakan?
I think that's right, yeah.
I think that's correct. She came very, very highly recommended, and we listened to some of the audio, and it was like, yes, she is wonderful for it. So that's the narrator moving forward, and please do give it a go, guys, because you're going to absolutely fucking love it. The little touches of humor that are here, there, and everywhere throughout the entire series are very Pratchett-esque.
Well, there isn't any higher praise than that, so thank you for that.
No, it's bloody true. It's really good fun, and that I genuinely, when we were reading through some of the submissions we get, some of them are wonderful, but they're just not for us. And it's a case of that's great, but it's not our style. It's not something that we feel that we can help with. Others we would love to work with, but it's just not on the cards there. And some like yours, we read it and we're like, fucking yes, please. Yes, I really enjoyed this. So you did fantastically well on Royal Road. You really have got a hell of a following on it. And your next series is in progress from there as well, which, do you want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so it's a very different tale, but something I'm a bit more familiar with is it. I think somebody described it as a grimdark Discworld, and that's my favourite review I've ever had on anything I've ever written ever. That needs to be on every cover of everything. But it's a hardboiled detective story set in Saw, which is recognisably a sort of Victorian London Ankh-Morpork mix-up, and it's a lit RPG murder mystery, and I think across those three, I've had a lot of fun writing murder mystery stories with a lit RPG backing to them, really. And they've been a lot of fun because they're totally different from Arthurian legend. It's been quite nice to go for a very dry, hard-boiled sort of style. But that again, I think, has been a really enjoyable series, and I think if people like that sort of trying to work out they're proper whodunits, hopefully. Where when you get to the end and it's revealed who did it, you go, there were just enough clues to have worked that out. I think that's what you want, isn't it? To have had a chance to have worked it out, but still have enjoyed it. It gets to the end, and the idea of that one is that the detective, in true hardboiled style, he's had his class removed from him, so he is in a world where class is how will come with your class the most important thing. He has none. And therefore, to be a detective in a world where even the smallest child could kill you because he is in possession of a class is uniquely vulnerable, really. And I think that very much is in that sort of Marlowe and Spade sort of tradition. But yes, that finished this week. Actually, I finished it on Sunday, the third of the three, and that's all been wrapped up and now marked as complete on Royal Road, which was quite a weird button to press, really.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was one of the. I think it was one of the first chapters actually in the first book is when the debt collector comes for him.
Yeah.
And he's all right. Well, I'll break your legs as part of the payment here. Is you can't pay. You don't have the money. Fair enough. You've got nothing I can repossess left because I've already seen to you once.
Yeah.
So the payment in that case is going to be in pain. I'm going to break your legs. And that was handled so well with the fantasy element of it, of like, oh, well, I'll break my legs and then I'll have to get healed and have potions. I can't remember if it was potions or it was a device. But it's that whole, like, it's not a permanent thing. It's just going to be, this is going to be horrible, but yeah, okay, let's get over it. Because normally there's either a missing of that, because we're so used to these events having such meaning in our lives, or so either it's covered in that or it's just totally ignored. And yet the way that you did it was just sort of like, oh well, yeah, okay, let's get on with it then. And that really just got me because it amused me so well with that's how life would be. And
I think that was again. It really does come from that sort of Pratchett idea of these people with ridiculous powers and ridiculous casualness in how power is used. And I liked the idea of, well, what would happen if you didn't have access to that and every other person around you had these colossal abilities that they'd spent fortunes leveling up. And actually, it's talked about earlier on that actually one of the key ways you can get some XP in this world is just kill someone. And actually, the laws are a bit 50-50 on whether that's okay, really. And I like that notion of, well, how do you keep order in a world where might is absolutely right? And that's that sort of idea. It's quite an interesting one, really.
Especially with the gods the way they are, where they're sort of like, oh, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. Oh, he's dead. I'll get another one then. And it's that whole, like, because these gods would be so uncaring and so like, fuck it.
And that it really, I mean, I started writing that when I was very nearly done with the Dark Age one. But the idea of Merlin really is that incredibly all powerful figure that really could do whatever. If you read some of the stories with the myths that we have, Merlin is very omniscient, really, and completely all powerful. And the idea of being around somebody that's got that sort of power, I think, is really. That's what so much of lit RPG and progression fantasy is about, is these people with colossal powers. And I do like the idea of, well, what happens with these people that don't really have it, and how do they interact as part of a world with malign gods, really? And I think that's an interesting dynamic to explore.
I liked the way that Eric Uegelund did a lot of that as well. The good guys and so on. Just an uncaring god. But it's the way, like Mr. Paul especially, where he's just he's sort of a god, but he's just dealing with things and managing in the great game. And I love
erratic evilness. I think that's those books absolutely a massive influence, because I think it is that sort of bureaucratic sort of, oh well, okay, well this is just how it's going to be, and I'll cheat a bit if I can, but maybe not. And I think that casualness is just fun to read, isn't it? Where we've all experienced it. We've not had gods crush down on us. We've all had some petty bureaucrat ruin our lives in some way, and the power that can be wielded there is extraordinary.
And absolutely not care in the slightest, and just be like, computer says no.
Exactly.
Very, very much. Yeah. It's also nice as well when you have the other side of it, where that character who's been stomped on just goes, you know what? No.
Yeah.
It's not happening now. And beats the living fuck out of them. And you're like, I like that. I like that. Ooh,
and that's what has to happen at the end, isn't it? You have to have that trade-off where it's not, just crush them all the time. You have that time where someone is able just to go, do you know what? There's my line, and you've crossed it, and now you're for it. And I think that's a fun scene. That's a fun scene to write. I think that's the one where you do a 13,000 word day, because that's the fun. Yeah. That's the fun bit that you've built up to.
Very much so. For me, it's always when you reach that stage and you're telling this story, and I aim generally, because the way that I write my books, I aim for around 200,000 per book. But it reaches that stage and you're like, okay, so this is due to the editor very soon, and you're typing it and you're working away and you're like, It's still nowhere near the end. It's 220,000. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. And it finishes at like 270,000 because the story needed to build just that bit more before it could get to. And you're like, fuck. Yeah, it's strange. Do you plot? Do you pants?
I know where it's going, so I know the final point that I want to reach, but I don't individually plot out how I'm going to get there. I think in everything I've written so far, I've got to where I was going, but I haven't always got there how I was expecting to. And I think that's that's what keeps it interesting, isn't it? Because I would think if you've plotted it to within an inch of its life, where's the fun in writing it? It's just it's a bureaucratic exercise to create it then, isn't it? It's
very much so, yeah.
Find out where it's going along with everybody else.
Yeah, I feel that way. So I've tried plotting, it just doesn't work for me at all. But to be fair, I've done it, I think, on 3 occasions I have plotted the book out. And on 3 occasions I finished the book and then found the plot afterwards and gone, oh, that would have really helped. And forgotten that I plotted it at the beginning and then started to write and just totally forgot about it for the next 3 months. And then went, shit, forgot to put that in.
It's been the useful thing having, particularly for Dark Age, having those myths where you go, well, fundamentally these things have got to happen. So as long as those happen, don't really care how we get to them. But in the next, as you say, 30, 40,000 words, I've got to have got there in order to move onwards. But I think that's the fun bit, is the journey to how you get to that moment. How do you meet that character? And because you've got to, because that'd be weird if they didn't show up. And
exactly, because I mean, you can't have a Merlin myth without Arthur.
Yeah.
So it's people would be going, well, who is Arthur? You'd be looking at all the characters going all the way through, and then at the end you'd be like, he's not there. That's not right, and it would feel wrong. The whole story would feel off. But yeah, no, dude, honestly, I love the series. So congratulations and well done.
No, thank you.
I have
a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun to read as well from my side, and hopefully from a lot of others as well. So once we get the audio released, I will obviously shout that from the high heavens. Unfortunately, we don't, as I said before, we don't have a hard date for that yet, except that Audible has said that it's in progress and will be resolved soon, and that they're doing their very best. So our contact there is determined to get this right and get it worked.
Oh,
so
these things happen. I think, as you say, it's you move on, don't you?
Yeah, there's 2 choices in this. We can't affect how it is on the other side. We can only affect how we feel and how we act about it. And it comes down to we can be huffed or we can be pleased. And so we might as well be pleased that it's getting looked after rather than being upset about it because there's nothing we can do about that side. So book 3 comes out in May. Book 2 comes out in May. Book 1 is out at the moment.
Yep.
So Geneva, if you could pop a little link in, please. So Geneva is hiding in the back system and keeping an eye on things for us and working her magic as she always is. So this will be the exact moment that she has gone to the loo or something, because that is the way that these things totally work. So when Geneva gets the chance, we'll have a little link along the back here just to let you know where it is, and so hopefully you can get it and really enjoy it. And I do believe you will enjoy it, guys, if you give it a try. And then once Geneva's sorted that out, we'll let you go and relax. Hey! Dun, da, da, da. Thank you, Geneva, my glamorous assistant. So, guys, do please give it a go. And as always with these things, I ask that you leave a review if you can, because you have no idea how important they are. A rating or a review does let Amazon know that it's good and that people have enjoyed it, and then they will show it to other people. If you don't leave one, Amazon will suppress it and it will essentially vanish. So that means I'll have to hunt you down and murder you all. I don't want to have to do that. You don't want me to have to do that. So just leave a goddamn review. Subtle as always. But no, it's been wonderful talking to you again.
Yeah, lovely to chat to you as well.
Well, hopefully we'll get together for a beer one of these days when the stars align at one of the conferences.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, great meeting you again. And hello, everybody. Hopefully you all enjoyed a brief abusive take, as we always do. And we'll see you another time. Okay.
Cheers, guys.
As Bill and Ted, or as Morgan and Malory's Excellent Adventure. Be excellent to each other. Love you all, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now we